Let me tell you a story. There's an executive for a multinational company, and he wants to roll out a standardized process across the globe. Now, he wants to do this for two reasons. One is to improve the organization. He wants to reduce costs, reduce risk, and make it easier for him to acquire other companies. Now, the second reason he wants to do this is obviously for his own career. He wants to take a step up, so to speak. Now, over the course of a few months, 3 different managers visit this executive to talk about their pitch for how they can help him. Now, the first manager comes in and talks about his platform approach. And this is all around rolling out standardized cloud systems around the world with standardized processes based upon a single platform for the whole organization. Now, the second manager comes in and his vision's a bit different. He says, well, you don't really know the solution just right now. So we have a process, we have an approach to work out what the problem is and what the solution is as we roll this out globally. So we look at things like design thinking, user centricity to improve the overall situation. And that manager goes away as well. And now the third manager comes in, maybe a few weeks later, and they say, I don't really have an answer for you, but I'd like to understand the problem better. And so they sit down and the manager reflects on a broad approach, but then starts asking questions. Why do you want to do this? In what time frame? What does success look like for you? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for the business? What does it mean for your career? Now, think about these 3 different managers and ask yourself, who do you think got the work in the end? So hi, my name is Mark Nold and I'm a partner at a big consulting firm. This channel is for managers, consultants and future leaders. And I'd like to help you with the skills that they don't teach you in your degrees or your MBA. It's all about communicating big ideas, becoming a better leader, and most importantly, helping you to grow your career. Now, today's topic is questions, and are they really the answer? So let's get started. Now, the first kind of questions are the basic questions, and I like to call these the 6 W's. These are the what, the where, the when, the how, it also has a W in it, and the who. Now, they're all important, but the 6th one's the most important, and that's why. So asking why something is happening, asking why something is not happening, asking why does someone want to do something is a really, really important question. So those basic questions, the 6 W's, are a really good starting point. And I think they're one of the more powerful questions you've got in your arsenal. Now, the second kind of questions is what we like to call naive questions. And these are playing dumb, basically. So you can say, well, I don't really understand. Please tell me more. Now, I don't understand that point. Please explain why you're doing this. So it's really taking some of those basic questions and just keep on drilling down with, I don't really understand. Please explain. Now, they're often quite useful because quite often you don't understand all the detail, and it's good to draw out the important pieces. Now, another kind of question to build on these is hypothetical questions. Now, these are interesting questions. I don't personally use them very much, but simple questions around career. So if you had access to $10 million, what would you really do? If you had all the resources for this project, how would you go about it? If this group over here was blocking you, how would you work around that? So hypothetical questions would be quite useful to start thinking outside the box. The next kind of question is power questions. Andrew Serbell has written a great book on this topic called, funny enough, Power Questions. These questions maybe cut to the heart of the matter a bit better. So questions after an important meeting, like, to your team. What did you learn? What did we decide today? Or maybe on meeting with an executive, you could ask them, you've had such an interesting career. Is there something else you'd like to accomplish? Or as you think about the future of your business, what are you most excited about? Now, powerful questions are really, really important, but it's a good idea to avoid the trite and the overused questions like, oh, what keeps you up at night? Yeah, these overused questions quite often show you don't really understand the topic and maybe you haven't fully prepared. Okay, so there's several types of questions. So the first is your basic questions, where we've got the 6 W's, and the why is the most important. Then you've got your naive questions, which is all about you asking again and again and again, I don't understand, tell me why, tell me more. The next kind of question is the hypothetical questions, where you pose a situation which may in fact be impossible, but helps reframe the situation and helps people think differently about the situation. And lastly, we have the powerful questions. There's a lot of great material out there around these, and they're worthwhile thinking about. And I think that the first thing you need to prepare when trying to ask these power questions is what am I really interested in about this person? What's going to help us get through to the next level? Now, successful questions have 3 things in common. The first is that they're open-ended questions and not closed. And what I mean by that, a closed question is a question that has a simple yes or no answer. Okay. Would you like to achieve greatness in the future? Well, yes. Would you like to avoid this risk? Yes. Would you like to increase revenues? Yes. They're not very interesting and they don't take you very much further. While asking questions with whys, hows, how would you go about this? How would you avoid this risk? How would you reduce your costs? Are much more interesting and can really let you cut to the heart of the matter. So the first thing is, focus on open-ended questions, not closed questions. Next, you need to be curious. And this curiosity is important in several ways. First, you need to be curious before you meet with someone. You need to understand a bit of background about them. What are they trying to achieve? You need to start being curious yourself. Think, what questions do I want to ask them? What do I want to understand? If I'm to help them, what do I need to understand so I can help them properly? Next, you need to be curious in the meeting itself. Now, this might be listening. And when I say listening, I mean not just sitting there waiting for your chance to talk. Now, I've done this in the past. I have reflected several times looking back. And you're in a meeting and someone's telling you about what's really important to them, but you're sitting there going, okay, well, I've got to get these 3 points across. When am I going to start interjecting with those? So it's important to be curious and listen. And I mean, listen with your whole body. It's also important to be curious and look, because the next most important point is it's vital that you're paying attention to the person that you're talking to. It's vital that you're watching them, because the next point is around questions that land. Now, when you're asking questions, you'll often ask several in a discussion with an executive or another manager or one of your team members. And after several questions around what did we learn today, how could we improve, you might see them suddenly sit forward. Or you might see them just sit back. You might ask them a question about sustainability. How does your multi-million-dollar project impact the sustainability of this region? And you might see them sit back and say, you know what, I hadn't considered that. And that's what we call a question that lands. So when you're organising your questions, it's really important to be prepared, but during the meeting itself, you'll actually find when you ask the right questions, one of them will land or 2 of them will land. And you'll see the person sit forward in their seat or sit back and react visibly to that question because you've triggered something they hadn't thought about, something they hadn't considered. So in conclusion, questions are really important. Sometimes they're more important than having answers. Walking in with a 3-point plan, with an operating model, a platform to roll out, and an overall approach may not hit the mark. Sometimes you might need to ask more questions and really understand why someone's trying to do something. Whether it's for their organization or their own personal career. So understanding better through questions is often a much better way to success. There's multiple kinds of questions that we covered today. We talked about the basic questions, naive questions, hypothetical questions, and power questions. But something that links them all together is the best questions are quite often open, not closed. It's important that when designing your questions or preparing your questions, that you be curious in preparation and during the meeting. And lastly, look out for those questions that land, because the ones that land, they're the important ones. That's when you've learned something. So thank you for your time and your attention. Hopefully this information around questions really being the answer will help you communicate big ideas. They'll help you grow your career and I think importantly, help you become a better leader. So thank you again and goodbye.